Welcome back to the Earn Your Edge podcast. I'm Corey Lundberg with ALTUS Performance, and in this episode, we are joined by a longtime ALTUS client, Noah Goodwin. Noah has worked with Cam since he was a junior golfer, so this is a fun one. There's a lot of history there. Noah was the top-ranked junior golfer in the country, AJGA Player of the Year in consecutive years, then a USAM junior or US Junior AM champion, and the number one ranked college player during his time at SMU. So he's now coming off of his rookie year on the PGA Tour. And as always, some of our favorite conversations are with players who have taken a unique path to that level of success. And Noah's story absolutely fits that description. He's very thoughtful, incredibly reflective about his journey. There's a lot to learn from this one. Stick around also because Cam and I will debrief about this conversation at the end and hopefully deliver a few actionables and takeaways for you. Before we get into it, we need to shout out our amazing partners at Golf Genius. We're proud to be sponsored by Golf Shot by Golf Genius. This is the leading mobile and wearable golf GPS app worldwide, trusted by more than 8 million golfers in over 90 countries and available in 15 languages. Golf Shot has been helping golfers improve and play their best golf since 2008. It's featured as Best Golf GPS app for the Apple Watch and as a Best App for Golfers by Apple. Golf Shot continues to push the boundaries in technology innovation and golf to provide automated data collection on and off the course for its members. Golfers automatically get game improving stats, auto shot tracking, and swing analysis while using Golf Shot on the course or at the range. Earn Your Edge listeners can try Golf Shot Champions for just $50 off for the first year with promo code EDGE to get 50% off. That's promo code EDGE at play.golfshot.com/buy. With that said, let's get into our conversation with Noah Goodwin. Please enjoy. Before we dig into the big questions, I just wanted to ask what life has been like for you in the last few weeks. You've just earned your PGA Tour card, and we're now a few weeks away from that PGA Tour season beginning. Has that sunk in, or are we still caught up in kind of the whirlwind of all that?
No, life is good. It has sunk in. Fortunately, I've had been around a lot of family and everything, so it's been able to give me good perspective on it all. I took a few days, I took a few weeks actually, and just kind of got away from the game, and just really tried to reminisce on everything that's gone into it for the last 17 years or so, and understand that at the end of the day, while this is the validation, this is something that I've worked towards all those 17 years. The job's not finished yet. This is only beginning. I got to the big leagues. Now I get to play in the big leagues. And this is what all those late night putts on the putting green are for. They're not to get your tour card all the time. They're to win the US Open. They're to win the Masters. So those are the things that kind of looking forward to now. And yeah, it's sunk in. It's been incredible. It's been everything I could have asked for it to be. The feeling of getting my card was even better than I dreamed about it, but at the same time, it's time to keep going. It's time to lock back in.
Yeah, it's amazing to see the journey and where you are now. And as a preface to this, Cameron and I have obviously known you for a long time. Cameron has coached you since you were 14. And so we've been able to see all these different steps. And that's where we want to start. We're going to give you more chance to reminisce a little bit because, our goal is to serve the audience by describing all these different journeys, and yours is a unique one. And we want to kind of examine each of those steps along your journey to hopefully have an audience be able to parse away some takeaways and some actionables to help serve them on their journey to their big goal. So we'll start early on. What was done with mom, dad, peers that differentiated your early development, your early involvement in golf from others that's, influenced what you've achieved now. And your dad's got a unique background and that he's got a background in sports science. So can you first give a little bit of background on dad briefly, and then describe what those early days at Oakmont Country Club looked like when you guys would head to the golf course, just so we can have a good picture of those early days in golf.
Copy. Well, my dad is a college professor of over 30 years, in kinesiology with the specialization of motor learning practice, how the brain learns a specific motor skill. So practice is something that has been a household conversation and talked about, and I've heard all about it since the very, very beginning. Random practice has been implemented for me since the get-go. I was always structured out there, with my dad. Everything had an exact plan for the day. We only had 3 hours in between you get out of school and sun goes down. Those 3 hours are very valuable. My dad was also a big believer in the 10,000 hours thing. So, I mean, this is all structured, documented even. I'm sure he still has these notebooks filled with how I practice every day. But it was very structured, 15-minute intervals on everything that I did, from putting to chipping, pitching, even breaking up those into little things of, okay, let's spend 15 minutes working on just wedge distance control, like 30 yards, 40 yards, 50 yards. Okay, let's spend 15 minutes just kind of tossing balls here and there. You're going to give yourself a bad lie here, tucked pin. Let's see what you can do with it. And just kind of learning the finesse side of things. But it was always random, even whenever I would go and practice on the golf course. It was one of the reasons I loved it. Of just, I hit a shot from 150, I can drive the cart over to the left side of the fairway, toss the ball in the first cut of the rough, and figure it out from there. Um, my dad just, he did a really good job of explaining to me from the get-go of why random practice was so important. And I really got two great examples of, if you hit the same shot twice in golf at any given point in your round, you've really messed up. So probably shouldn't practice that way. And the other side of it is you're gathering data out there. Every shot is a learning opportunity. So give yourself as many new learning opportunities as you possibly can, from swing feels and technique. I mean, for me, at minimum, I have to switch clubs a ton whenever I'm working on a feel or a new swing change. I need to feel it with everything. Just because I can get the move down with a pitching wedge, driver gets in my hand, it's a way different thing. I'm swinging it way faster. So just trying to make yourself adaptable to every situation by throwing yourself into pure randomness. And just trying to, yeah, it's all about data, just going around greens, pitching, putting, little things of just, hey, I can hit 100 shots from this area, get a really good cluster around this hole. Gonna feel really good about myself. But at the end of the day, I probably got 10 really good data shots in there, because at some point balls are going to be hitting other balls on greens. Something's going to happen that's going to skew what I can see and what I can learn from it. So instead, let's drop a ball here, let's hit it, let's pay attention, understand what happens whenever the ball hits the green, whenever it checks, how it spins. Let's go over here, let's give ourselves different grass. Let's try to get more data, something new. All just goes into golf IQ, trying to learn it as quickly as possible from a young age. Just kind of throw yourself into the fire. And at the end of the day, it's not really, it's a hard thing to teach. It's more something that you just kind of have to throw yourself out there and figure it out yourself and figure out your own golf IQ at the end of the day.
What I just figured out is far too much of me trying to compete as a professional was actually random practice. I had far too many shots from the same location twice with the same club, whether they be out of bounds balls or water balls. So hence me being a coach. But the golf ball provides us the feedback that you were alluding to and describing there in many ways. But in addition, what else provides us feedback is the competitions that we play in. And you were 14 years old when I met you and became your coach. But prior to that, you have a depth of competitive history starting at age 7. When was it between that age 7 to 14? Because when you showed up at my doorstep, you were really, really good. Then you became better, but yes, you're really good. So between that between
Yeah.
7 and 14, when did you realize that you're one of the best in the area, locally or regionally or nationally? And before that actually happened, did you have a peer group or just the players you were competing against? You're like, man, they're so good. And you recognize that that gave you the experience of observing what good was. And then what lessons could you say that you learned from that?
Yeah, that's great. Competition has always been extremely vital to me. I love I love it more than anything at the end of the day. I love the feeling of coming down that stretch on the 18th tee box tied with another guy, and y'all are looking at each other like, all right, this is it. it's go time now. Let's have a ball. And so that was always important. In terms of when did I realize I was good, that took me a little bit. I always had a chip on my shoulder because of my size. And so growing up playing like US Kids and TPGA and everything, I was just a short hitter. I was good in the sense that I could come second, third a lot, not many wins at that age, and I really wanted to win. Um, I'd say whenever I started playing in AJGA, after my first summer of AJGA, so I'm starting to become 13-ish or so. I start to grow a little bit more, and I start to finally gain distance on other people. Um, I'm not the shortest hitter in the field anymore. I'm starting to turn more into middle of the pack. And at that point, all the parts of my games that I had always viewed as survival, like how good I was with my irons whenever I finally did have an opportunity, um, short game, getting out of trouble whenever I short side myself, all of those things that to me were just what I had to do started to become the things that were my separators and what really kind of showed me like, hey, this is your irons are just they're up there. You're hitting it more consistently than everybody else. I'm hitting 8 irons with other guys from similar yardage. I'm hitting it inside them every time. I start to realize like these are my what turned out to be the money makers of my game. And I'd say whenever I finally started to get that little bit of distance to where I could finally highlight those parts of my game successfully, that's whenever I started, the confidence kind of started to come with it of like, hey, if we just keep getting a little longer and everything, and we just keep dialing in these parts that we're really, really good at, the distance is going to come eventually. Like you'll catch up at some point. But if we just focus on these separators, these things that really, really are special, um, that's how we're going to separate ourselves and really take it to the next level. I couldn't chase distance at the end of the day. I was waiting on my body to grow. I couldn't force it to grow any faster. So it was really just a lot about patience and waiting, waiting out everything so the confidence can come. And I think having that chip on my shoulder along the way really played a part of that also of, hey, I'm hitting it as long as you now. We were pretty close whenever you were hitting it 40 past me. What are you going to do whenever we're hitting it the same distance now? And so that chip on the shoulder kind of kept fueling me of, hey, we're getting that validation of everything, starting to see the reasons why we needed to stay patient and kind of gave me that the little burst to just stay the course and understand, hey, this is the right path. You just keep doing what you're doing.
It's funny that you bring up that time when you were like 7 to 10. It's not like you were winning a ton
Mhm.
because I use it as an example really recently with my son who's just started to play in NTPJ stuff. I pulled up your results from like when you were 7, 8, 9, 10. I was like, hey, look at Noah. He's just got his PGA Tour card and he wasn't winning a ton when he was 10. But then you fast forward it and then you're a two-time AJGA player of the year. You win the US Junior. You're in the final 2 years in a row. You mentioned the chip on your shoulder. Can you tell me a little bit how you balance the fact that, yeah, the chip on your shoulder is really important, but then all of a sudden you're the most decorated junior golfer in the country? Is there, which could be a double-edged sword. It could mean that you let your foot off the gas a little bit and you lose that chip on your shoulder. What did you do, or what conversations did you and Cam have to make sure that you kept the pedal down essentially?
Yeah, I think I did an exceptional job of it all through junior golf with and throughout my entire career with the one exception of whenever I graduated early from high school and I went to college. I went in there with a big ego. I thought I was the man, and you quickly realize that there are a lot of really good players in this game. And some of them also happen to be 4 years older than you now and have a lot more experience out there. So besides that one wake-up call, I'd say what we've always done very, very well is we've had a roadmap the entire time and understanding that even the PGA Tour isn't the end goal. There's always a next step. As long as I keep outlining next steps, there's a next step. There's something to strive for. There's something to push for. At the end of the day, at this point, the only way if I get complacent is just if I take it off. I have no reason to anymore. I have the things I have my eyes set on, and I just think it's about following that journey and following that path. Milestones are to be celebrated, obviously. They're huge, but there is no final milestone in this game or in life at all. You just keep going and keep trying to chalk up the next one.
I was waiting for you. See, that was an awkward pause. Was me just giving it a little space for Cam
I
right
saw
there.
Cam in the corner.
Yeah.
Thought he was gonna jump in there.
Okay. Well, I'm gonna ask a question because this is one that Cameron can't really ask, and I want to get into the SMU. I want to move on to the next kind of stage in your development and your path. But to wrap up the conversation on your early stages of golf and your like golf as a youth player,
Mhm.
one of the most important things that we can help young players and coach and parents with is just finding the right coach. So you've obviously have a long relationship with Cameron, and you guys have a special bond, but can you talk to me about like the 14, 15-year-old? What traits or what did you like about your time with Cameron that made you kind of gravitate towards him and tell you that this is the guy that's right for me and laying out what
I'll
this
leave the room.
roadmap will be and guiding it? Yeah.
I got the
I should leave the
perfect
room.
story. I got the perfect
This
story
is
for
what we
this.
need.
This is it. It's the first day I met Cam. We're at Brook Hollow. It's a morning lesson, and we show up, and it is a downpour of all downpours. Cam meets us in the pro shop. We can't even drive a golf cart back to his bay. It's raining so hard. I mean, Brook Hall is flooding. So we chat for solid 30 minutes or so to get things started. We finally rain kind of starts settling up a little bit. And we go back there and I booked a 3 hour first lesson, all short game. And man, we hit putts for a solid hour 45 in that bay. Until Cam finally looks at me and he's like, buddy, like I can only tell you so much right now on this dead straight 9-footer on Sam Putt Lab. Like, we can't go outside. It's still raining. Do you want to hit some for me? You have another hour. Like, you've already paid for it. Let's see some shots. I'm like, okay. So I already had a full swing guy at the time who I was a really big fan of, and I started hitting for Cam. And at the time, I had an awful hook. Just there's no other way to call it. I hit a controlled hook. It was my only way of getting distance and everything. My hips moved really, really fast. My arm moved really, really slow. A cut wasn't in the cards. I had never hit a cut in my life for the first 14 years of it, so 7 years of my career. Um, so I'm hitting for Cam, and he calls me over to his screen and he shows me the top of my backswing. He's like, Noah, if I could teach somebody where to set the club at the top of the swing, it's right here. This is money. And so I'm over there, chest all high and everything. Then he shows me my downswing. And it was something along the lines of, I don't understand how a highly competitive golfer is as good as you are doing this. And at that point, I'm like, that's my guy because I needed that. That's me. I don't beat around the bush. I don't need somebody to tell me I'm good at this game. Trust comes from practice and just trusting in yourself. I needed somebody who wasn't going to BS me. I knew I needed work. I knew there was stuff that needed to be done, and I knew I there was a chance at a future. And at that point, I needed a guy who was just going to we are going to cut through it all together. It was going to be glorious, and that's what it was. We worked well. Cam would push me and challenge me, and a lot of ways, I think I didn't really give up any ground. I'm not going to shy away from anything. I'm there to work in every lesson. I want it just as much as he does. And so I think that fire that we both had, that desire to be the best out there, is what really kind of drew us together. And we have a great time in our lessons. We have a blast. We have fun. We have laughs in there, but it's work and it's hard work for that hour, and we grind. And Yeah, I knew that was my guy from that exact sentence. And I got in the car with my dad and I told him, I was like, that's my guy. And he's over here playing devil's advocate as he always did. He's like, you got a guy already. You got a full swing guy. And I'm like, no, 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 no. Like Cam's my guy. And that's
Cam,
all
what do
she
you
from
what do
there.
you remember about Noah at that age? Like, what are the traits that stood out to you at 14, 15?
He was very intense, as uh, many other, but a select few. And when I see that, I should probably be more clear. I've been blessed to be around some very highly talented teenage players, and a good number of the most talented share this intensity and this steely vision towards what they expect from others around them and what they expect from themselves. And then they take a very thoughtful approach to the questions they're asking and thinking through the responses that they were given. And Noah was definitely that way. And that's common to the tip of the spear, but uncommon as a general rule. Tracing the sources of that is tracing the influences that come from their experience, both with family, academically, and also just those inherent character traits that I think that Noah possesses, as others that I've been around have. But what I wanted to ask is how much I've softened. I mean, you're 14
Oh,
years old, you're 10 years. How much have I softened in 10 years? I'm a different person now.
oh
No, I'm
my
just playing.
gosh. I mean, in some ways, you're still the same Cam at the end of the day. You're the Cam that I know and love, that you do what you do. You're unapologetic about
Go on.
being a hard ass, and I love that about you because you ex
All
you
right,
just
let me.
you this is you just made the statement, we have a steely vision about what we expect from others.
Yeah.
And I think that's a perfect way to describe it. You are a high performing individual as well as myself. You're a coach, I am a player. And
Mhm.
you have a very high expectation of the people that walk into your bay to get work done because you're going to put that same work in. And whenever those levels don't match, it's simply, in my opinion, it's unacceptable. And that's one thing that we've never had.
Right.
Um, that same intensity, that fire, we match it. But yes, you have softened. I don't know when.
I hadn't seen
College
him
actually.
soften. No,
College
I call
actually.
bullshit. I hadn't seen him
No,
soften at all.
I don't call BS. College, I would say, because
Let's
yeah, we'll get into that when we start talking about
exactly.
college. Yeah, yeah,
We'll go off, but let's cut to college.
yeah.
And
Okay.
you made a choice when opportunity was abundant. You could have gone anywhere in the country, and you also could have turned professional, as did Minwoo Lee, who,
Mhm.
I mean, by any measure, look at all the junior golf records that Corey already alluded to, two-time player of the year, et cetera, et cetera. Could have won back-to-back U.S. junior championships. Minwoo chose to turn pro. You didn't. Matt Wolff went to college like you did. Number one, I want to unpack the choice to go to college first.
Mhm.
And then number two, the choice of where to go to college close to home at SMU, when you had an open slate of just take your pick, and that's where you could have gone.
Yeah. I'd say it was between SMU and Alabama, so I'll start with that. At the time, Alabama had just won back-to-back national championships. On one of my very first visits there, it's Coach Sewell and Coach McGraw. Dynamic duo. Who doesn't want to go play for those guys? At the end of the day, though, I always knew that McGraw wouldn't stay the assistant, so I had that in the back of my mind. And I got along great with the coaching staff. Coach Howell at the time, who was one of the guys who recruited me, and Coach Sewell. I have a lot of love for those guys. They're great people. At the very end of the day, and I say this knowing that I paced around in my backyard on three separate occasions with the phone in my hand, ready to call and commit to Bama. And I could never pull the trigger. And it really came down to, for me, two things or three things. Family was really important. I'm an only child. My mom's an only child. My dad's an only child. We're very close. I didn't really want to leave the life that I had lived since I was three, in the sense of Texas is home to me. And I knew that Texas would be home to me after I came back from college. So in a lot of ways, it was like, why would I leave for 4 years and lose out on all these connections that I could have just by living 40 minutes from my family in a city that I love, a place that I love, a school that I love, great facilities and everything. I had everything in Dallas. And it was just why would I leave when I have everything that I want and need right here? And coaching is a big part of that as well, in terms of just I could walk across the hallway and knock on your door. And that is so vital during that time, especially. And looking back on it, I really don't think I appreciated it, SMU and everything as much as I should have as a freshman and sophomore, in the sense that I didn't know how good I had it. You were 20 steps away from me, and I could have gotten so much more work done than I did. But at the same time, another conversation, you're 18 years old, you think you know everything in this life. Um, but those were all the contributing factors of I have some of the best facilities in the entire world. I'm going to a very prestigious university. Let's say I get hurt with golf or something, golf doesn't work out. I have an incredible degree at the very minimum of attending SMU. I have an incredible degree. My friends are nearby, my family, my grandparents live in the area. Like there was just so many things that I think I knew deep down at the end of the day whenever I was trying to talk myself into convincing to Alabama. And I think that all those things just kind of held me back. And it was the decision that I stand by. It was my decision. It was my best decision, was going to SMU. We can dive into thought about transferring. My pops wanted me to go to Oklahoma State because Oklahoma State breeds PGA Tour players.
Yeah.
Um, but at the same time, SMU was home for me, and it was for all those reasons of being close and everything. And the second part of your question was, I got a little long-winded there.
The choice that you made to go to college when the few, but those that are capable, of which you were rivaling and beating as a junior player, decided to turn pro.
So I fielded 2 meetings before I went to college, to help gain some insight at the time. Both of them were after my US junior. I would have said this would have been probably around September of 2017, because I graduated a semester early and started in the spring of 2018. So yeah, September 2017. We fielded meetings. At the end of the day, and it's very ironic that I say this, I knew I wasn't mature enough. And the only thing I actually regret in my entire golf career is graduating early from high school and going to college as a 17-year-old, because I wasn't mature enough to do that. So it's kind of ironic that the whole reason that I didn't turn pro was maturity, and then I turned around and made a really immature decision of going to college early. But hey, 2020 vision and everything.
Exactly.
But I knew I needed some time. More so in the sense of you don't know what you don't know as a 17-year-old. And I already thought going to college as a 17-year-old was going to be a whole new world for me, let alone trying to figure out how am I going to figure out my career at 17 years old. I haven't even lived out of the house yet. So it was more in just the sense that I knew that I needed time. Like all good things in life, some things take time, and it's not about how fast you get there, it's about staying there. And I figured that the best chance for me to stay out there and make my mark in this game would be go to college, wait a few years, learn as much as I can, and then whenever I'm more mature, emotionally, mentally, physically, golf more mature, that's whenever it's time to go make a run for it.
You speak a little bit to, you mentioned the word regret, but it's just mistakes. It's stuff that because you're 17 years old and you're young and you make mistakes. And it's also because college golf, take away the fact that you're 17, but it brings on this whole new structure with the team dynamics and with balancing academics, and you're traveling, and then you've got to go compete. You've got to continue to get better. speak to, if you were pretending the audience was all young college players, can you, outside of, yeah, you have to get mature, can you speak a little bit to maybe specific speed bumps that are in the road that those players should be looking out for and should have their a heightened awareness of, hey, I need to avoid these roadblocks that could get me going down the wrong direction?
Speaking from somebody who struggles with procrastinating, you can say time management until people's ears bleed, but I don't think people really understand just how crucial time management is to everything. And even more so after you leave college. College is the breeding ground for time management. That's when you have to learn your system and everything. You have 4 years to learn a system, but you better have it done by the second you step off that campus if you want to make it in professional golf, because everything just gets cranked up to 11 from there.
Yeah.
But I'd say the milestones are little things like how do you got 3 exams in 3 days and you leave for a tournament on the fourth day. What are you gonna do?
Yeah.
But you got to make a choice right there of, okay, how am I gonna practice? How am I gonna get the study in and go to class and do all those things? And then you have social obligations. You're in college. You have a social life for the very first time in your entire life, probably. And it's important to not get carried away in that, obviously. That goes without saying, but it's important to take advantage of it as well. It's what's going to keep you sane. You have a lot going on as a golfer in college. You miss more class than basically any sport, especially in springtime. I think I counted it out one year. Like I missed the equivalent of 1 month of sitting in class. That's going to put you behind an 8 ball. That's going to make everything that you do when you're sitting in that class, coordinating with other people, getting notes from them. You have to, you gotta be a big boy. You gotta take care of yourself. There's nobody to hold your hand. And unfortunately, it's all trial and error because I know from experience that people really laid it out for me of how it's going to be, but maybe it's just because of my stubbornness. I thought I knew better, and I just had to experience the crash and burn and the all-nighter, and then you're taking an exam, and then you have qualifying that afternoon because you're an idiot and didn't decide to study over the course of a week. So I'd say it's just mostly it's life comes at you fast more than anything. You have a million things that you want to do. You're getting pulled in every direction, and you just have to really be mindful about where you're putting your time in. Every second counts. At the end of the day, you only have a finite number of hours in the day, and the sooner people can really realize that in college, the earlier they can and really instill it in themselves, the more successful they'll be.
What were the pivotal factors that influenced your timing in turning professional? Because you had an opportunity to go earlier than you did. And again, this theme comes up of patience, where you've had choices along the way, and you just said, what it's not how fast you get there, it's that you stay, which I think is a really good way to describe kind of your journey and a lot of the steps along the way. So how did your experience at SMU inform that decision to stay a little longer uh, as a college player?
Yeah, so my junior year would have been the first year for PGA Tour U, I
Right.
think. Yes. Yeah, that's right, because Mac. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Okay, so my first year or junior year, first year PGA Tour year, I came out and I had a great year. Ended it with winning regionals in Stillwater. I had a boatload of top fives, just barely missed out on winning a few times. I want to say that spring, my worst finish was like T20 at like in February or something. And then I don't think I finished outside the top five after that until national championship. So I racked up all these PJ Tour U points and it was great. I mean, I was slated to probably get my tour card with the way things were going. Um, but unfortunately, I had to make a decision a little bit in advance. So I won Stillwater in about May, April, May. I had to make a decision like 2 weeks before that. if I was going to keep my name in or toss it out. So then it really came down to two things. One, I was kind of banking on, okay, you're going to keep playing well. It's off of a 2-year cycle. Let's roll into next year, play good again, guarantee that top five. Because at the time, I was iffy.
Yeah.
Turning out, when I won regionals and everything after the fact, probably would have locked up like 4 spot on PGA Tour U. So I would have gone Korn status from that. Um, I'm very happy with my decision to stay. More so for the reason that I like finishing what I started. I wanted the degree. I didn't appreciate school at all until my junior year of college. It's also whenever you finally start like getting into your majors and I was learning stuff I was excited about finally. And so I was in a point of my college where like I was enjoying all of it. I was enjoying class, I was enjoying learning, I was enjoying grinding with my team and practicing. And I really didn't want to give that up for my senior year. I wanted one last ride with the guys, one last national championship, try to get to match play after we had done so my true freshman year of the 2018 class whenever Ben, Ollie, and everybody came. And I wanted to try to run that back again with my guys. We started together. I wanted to finish with them. At the end of the day, that was probably the biggest reason behind it. I just didn't want to leave yet.
Yeah.
It still wasn't my time. I knew I had more to learn, and I knew I had more just life stuff to figure out. I can look back and say that my procrastination still wasn't in a good spot. My time management wasn't good. But fortunately, at the time, I was very self-reflective and I knew those things. And so it was very easy for me to say, hey, let's take this one more year. Let's go through the PGA Tour year route again. It ended up whatever happening. I didn't get Korn Ferry from it, but that year was very important to me, just learning and growing. The great part that came out of it was my last semester at SMU, I took 1 hour. I took some spreadsheet literature class. It was online 1 day a week. The teacher would just post a Zoom link and she would go through the entire homework on that Zoom link. So you just followed what she did and turned it in. And I just played golf for 6 months pretty much. It was a great way for me to figure out how I'm going to structure my time whenever I'm a professional. Whenever your team doesn't get out to practice until 2 p.m. and you wake up at 8, everybody's gone from your house and everything. It's like, okay, well, I'm bored already.
Yeah.
Might as well go practice. And then you go practice all morning, 2 p.m. hits, you're tired, your entire team gets out there and you're expected to still be out there and practicing. So you're like, okay, well, maybe that's not a good idea. Then you start trying to experiment with different patterns and everything of like, okay, if I work out in the morning, I can come back, I can rest up a little bit, be fresh again, go out there by 11 or so. Then I've already cut out 3 hours of practice, but I'll get that back on the back end whenever all my team gets there. And then I can play with those guys because they're going to want to play. And I can already have had my reps done in the morning, get out onto the golf course, have a little bit of competition and everything. So that decision to stay was very impactful for me in a good way. Um, I think it's a large portion of why I was able to, even though Canada, my season was a little hit or miss in terms of miscut and win, it was why I was able to be good enough up there. I knew the plan already. I had already experienced it. I already had my entire schedule figured out. I knew who my trainers were and everything. I didn't have any more stuff to figure out that you have to, whenever you win or go to natties and you only get those 2 weeks before Canada starts up. That's hectic. That's crazy. Some guys, if you make it to match play, then you're pretty much rolling straight from national championships to start of Americas back then. Now that it's Americas, it starts earlier, but neither here
Yeah.
nor there. But just that time to be able to learn more about myself and learn how I like to do things. Um,
Me, me, me.
you,
Okay,
Yeah.
you,
perfect. The season, well, you might describe it in Canada that after you turn pro. you might describe it as hit or miss. It was a whole lot more hit than it was miss, with pretty quickly 2 wins and finishing, I think, maybe
Third.
third on the
Yes.
order of merit. And that validating that the one class, the Excel spreadsheet class, and the amount of time that you're able to dedicate and figuring out the time management thing in that last semester at SMU was certainly valuable. But prior to that, you'd played professional events. In fact, you played the Byron Nelson and you played a US Open. And I
Mhm.
was there with coaching you at both of those. When you turned pro, were you surprised by anything? An entire competitive week or entire week of competitive golf where there's in many ways practice rounds or practicing almost every day and then 4 competitive rounds. And now you're in a field where, whilst you might have described getting to college, there's adults or people that are 4 years your senior, but now you're competing against people that are 20 years your senior. Were you surprised by anything at all?
Um, I'd say I was surprised by the travel. Um, I would say, yeah, the travel surprised me. I had not since I was 15, 16 playing amateur events, had done multiple in a row. You don't really do multiple in a row in college. So I had lost that sense of what living out of a hotel is like. How do you go from one tournament back to back to back? Maybe you have it week one, you don't have it week two, you don't have any turnaround. How do you rally for week three? Um, so it was more in that sense. I was very surprised at just how unprepared I was to travel. At the same time, I think that's a hard thing to kind of get accustomed to. My saying as of late is that you never really get used to travel. You just get more numb to it. It's a part of the job. You just do it. Nobody enjoys spending 4 weeks away from home living out of a suitcase, but
Yeah.
you do it. And so really understanding whenever I'm on the road goes back to time management. How do I structure out these weeks? And you mentioned you're playing against guys that are 20 years older than you sometimes. And how those guys structure out their weeks because they may have seen this course 10 times already in 10 previous years. They don't need to go play it like you need to go play it. It's your first time out there. So they have 40 plus rounds maybe out there that you don't have. So their practice is going to look a lot more just like practice while you're going out there and you're trying to prep out the golf course, learn all the little things about it. And then you see how these other guys are just practice, 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 and you're like, oh man, I need to go do all my prep and then I need to go get my grind session. And come Thursday, you're just wiped because you're trying to do it all. And just really understanding how you spend your time out there. It needs to be methodical. It needs to have a plan from the second you get out there till the second you leave. Every second counts of it. No wasted time. It's not a social aspect. You're not at summer camp. You're there to work. And
Yeah.
just while you might not have seen buddies for a few years, sure, spend some time, talk to them. But when you go out there, when you set that bag down, you just blinders on. You got to be in your own lane for those 3.5, 4 hours that you spend out there, sometimes five. But if you don't, and you kind of get sucked into, I'm gonna chit chat, do all of these things, I'll relax a little bit, then those 4 hours can turn into 6.5. And whenever those 6.5 start adding up by week three, and you're really, really dead and
Yeah.
not in a great place mentally.
Or the other option is those 4.5 hours might turn into realistically 1 hour of the appropriate type of work to
Uh,
level you up or sharpen the knife, so to speak. And you mentioned, given that you're competing against players that had been playing those golf courses more frequently than you over the years, they have a competitive advantage. And right before that, you'd mentioned something to the effect of having uh, weeks where you don't have it and weeks where you do. Have you gotten better over time as you went from that first year in Canada to the first year Korn Ferry to the second year Korn Ferry and now graduated to the PGA Tour? Have you learned over time how you soften those fluctuations? And something maybe that's different than the time management piece, because clearly that time management piece, making 2 hours work for the benefit of four, would be one of those. Are there other things that you've learned over time to help soften the ebbs and flows of your week to week performance?
Yeah, I think there are a few contributing factors. The biggest one for me is consistency. And where I think the biggest part of that is in your body and just fitness and everything. Um, going another example of guys have already played these courses for X number of years and you haven't. Okay, these guys are just as good as you. If you're hurt playing at 70% and they're playing at 100%, you're behind the eight ball from the get-go. And so just trying to get your body into a place of you cut out those 70% times. So if you can do something as little as saying, hey, maybe there's one time a year where something tweaks up and you're a little hurt for this. If one out of 20 plus events you have a little flare up, you're doing pretty good. Especially for how much we're on the road, sitting down, flying, traveling, the body's going to get messed up. It's just bound to happen. So decreasing that number as much as you possibly can so that whenever you tee it up, you have as many days as possible that you're 100%. That's going to ebb the flows right there immediately a little bit. I would say from there, just you have to trust what got you there at the end of the day. It's really easy to have that bad week and then you sit on the driving range and you see some other guys doing something and you're like, oh, I'll try this, I'll try X, Y, Z. And then you quickly realize that X, Y, and Z aren't for you, and you've just lost some time that you could have been working on the stuff that you actually needed to. So just having that belief in yourself, the trust instilled in you that one week doesn't mean two bad weeks. One of my favorite things to say is no matter what, tomorrow's always better because you can always make tomorrow better. It's a fresh new day. I can shoot 75 and I can go out and shoot 59 the next day and make the cut. It's within me. The game's there still. Just
Mhm.
because it was bad today doesn't mean it'll be bad tomorrow. So understanding that going forward from that, while you have to have that trust in yourself, you have to be very hypercritical of, hey, maybe it feels we're just off today, or no, I played like crap today and I need to go get some work done. And these are the things that need to be get done. I like saying critical in practice, gracious on the course. You have to be
Mhm.
your own biggest fan on the golf course. Your ego's got to be enormous, but in check because you can't start playing ahead of your ego, or you're just going to play bad and get yourself in bad positions. But having that trust in yourself that, hey, it might not be here today, it'll be here for the next shot. No matter what, the next one can be a good shot, and we'll figure this out on the range later. Just get it into the house. Let's get it home. There's no sense in, there's no need to just mail one in. Just grind through it. Bad days of golf happen. We honestly have a lot more so-so days than really, really great days. So
Mhm.
you just got to get used to them and try to look at things in a very big picture. So I tend to fall back on stats a lot to look at things of saying, hey, maybe it felt really bad today. It wasn't actually that bad. Or, hey, maybe you thought this was really bad, but it turns out it was actually this that was bad, and you were just blaming this other thing for it the entire time. So just falling back on stats and actually realizing of looking at the correct things, that tends to soften it a lot, in my opinion, of just not stressing yourself out of like, hey, this is what the data says. Trust the data. Go follow it. If it says that you're losing a stroke around putting, go and work on putting. It's not your irons. You don't need to hit it better. Just go make another putt around. It's refreshing in that sense that it just gives you that clarification so you don't have to go down the rabbit hole yourself.
No, as good as you and Cam are about using stats and having that inform the work that you do, you're about to be really excited because ShotLink is going to give you all the information that you need. You finally get a full year with all that ShotLink data. You guys don't have to depend on tracking it yourselves. But as we do look forward a little bit, as we said before, you've reached this significant milestone. You've got your PGA Tour card. Are have you started that process of we're a few weeks away from your first round of setting some goals for what success looks like in your rookie year?
Mm. Yes, I have. Minimum, a card needs to be kept. We have a very new thing this year of 100 players. It's about to get really grimy and cutthroat, more so than it already was. Every point matters. So just if you're in that top 100, you're good. So that's minimum. Really, realistically, what I'm going for is I want into the signature events next year. Um, so play good enough to get into the signature events. I have little goals in my mind, like winning and everything, but at the end of the day, those come with time and everything. I'm trying to, let me backtrack. I have the unfortunate privilege of having a rougher start than guys who played last year and are in that top 50 in the sense that there are two signature events at the start of the year. Waste management's in there. So that's 3 weeks right there, that unless I Monday in for waste management or win, that I'm just going to be sitting out at home. That other guys are getting points and everything. So whenever I show up, when my 30 number gets called, at least for that first reshuffle, I have to be ready to go. I got to be ready to get those points so that after that first reshuffle, things start to shake out a little bit. I'm not stressing. I'm not missing events just because of the reshuffle. So immediate priority is go down to Sony, Amex, and Tori and light it up. We talked about it right before the phone call, but playing the year stress-free from the get-go, just taking care of business whenever you have the opportunities. It's the unfortunate reality of this game. There are times that you need to play really, really well, whether it's for people keeping their card or trying to get their card, or maybe you Mondayed into this event because you didn't get in on your number and you need a made cut to get into the next reshuffle. There are just times when, unfortunately, or fortunately, you just have to go out there and you know exactly what you need to do. So for the start of the year for me, I know first three events are huge. I have expectations, I have goals for that, or expectations aren't great. I have goals, and a lot of my future goals would become a lot more clear if I succeed with that first goal of just lighting it up the first 3 weeks.
You mentioned there that you don't have the luxury of time. You've got to be playing good quickly. You can't just wait for, hey, I'm feeling good about my game, and so this is probably going to be a good week. You have to have those early weeks be good. And so what we talk a lot about is having some intention with how we show up, clearly defining our best performing self, and so that's who shows up on the first tee, not just by accident but through intention and through going through steps before, in our preparation. What does that best performing self look like for Noah? Like, what does it feel like for you internally, and then what does that maybe look like to an observer? What would we see when you're at your very best? What does that look like?
So for me, I'm at my very best always, no matter what, if I've seen the course before even the practice rounds heading into that week. Unfortunately, I'm not going to make a scouting trip down to Hawaii beforehand. That would be a little pricey and a little hard to do, but prep ahead of time is huge. Going to be using Tour IQ all year. Shameless plug for them. But just having that data, having the stats, having the shot link data that I can go back on, actually being able to say, hey, you might be showing up to this place for the first time, but you can build a game plan around your game of what you need to do to be able to attack this place successfully. I mean, there's shot link data going back 15 years, I think, something like that. If you toss all those numbers together, it starts to become really, really easy to see why guys birdied certain holes or why guys made bogey on certain holes. I mean, they use similar pins every year. So little things can start to present themselves that I already know about by the time I'm stepping foot on Monday of that practice round. So I already have all those things in my head. That's number one. Because at the end of the day, it was like I just talked about with Korn Ferry in Canada, you're playing with guys that have been there before and they're as good as you. So how are you going to bridge that gap as seamlessly and quickly as possible? So in my mind, that's my homework needs to be done before I get there. I need to have again, functional game plan before I step up to that practice round so that I can then say, hey, this is the plan that we've outlined that could work, instead of stepping up to that first tee saying, okay, we need to build a plan starting now. So I can take that Monday and I can go through my practice round. I tend to play a lot more than I'd say a lot of guys do. I was known as the guy I'd play 18, 18 Monday, Tuesday, and then do a pro-am on Wednesday.
Your poor
Um,
caddy, your poor dad.
oh man, he was a trooper though. He was a trooper. But that's just me. I like spending time on the golf course. So my practice rounds, I want by Monday to have that game plan pretty much ready. Like, sure, if you need to go see a T-ball here or there, that can be done on Tuesday. Tuesday, game plan has to be set in stone, no matter what. Tuesday's also a little bit of prep work if there's anything that was off Monday, Tuesday when you're playing. And then Wednesday for me is just sharpening. All day is spent sharpening in terms of gym, making sure body feels the best that it can possibly be. Everything's firing, there's no pain. And then just skills check. Hey, is there anything glaring that we haven't seen the last 2 days? It's kind of popping up now. No, there isn't. From there, it goes into just like little performance things. Do a combine on the range, hit some numbers, walk through the game plan that you've already outlined. Hey, we know we're going to hit a 150 shot on like 6 holes this week. Let's make sure 150 is a good number because it's going to need to be a good number. Just kind of utilize that. Fortunately, with TrackMan Pro now, you can pretty much do whatever you want in the combines and the performance center. It's awesome to have on the range. It makes sitting on the range for a bit a little bit more productive, and you get all the good data that you would need and kind of are able to lock in a little bit more, visualize targets and everything. But Wednesday is just about making sure everything's firing, game ready, and then it's just trust yourself from there. But yeah, to be the best version of me, it starts before I even get there. I have to have that prep outlined because I don't want to show up on Monday and just be that far behind everybody. Then Monday is all about learning, and then you don't have a good game plan. And then Tuesday, you're trying to finalize the game plan, but then you're going to need to go out there first thing Wednesday morning before the pro-am to hit those final few T-balls. And then you're just a little bit behind. And at the end of the day, every second counts. You can't afford to be a little bit behind.
Yeah. Noah, I've known you for over 10 years now, and you've always demonstrated great wisdom and clearly great physical skill as well. And that will only continue to be demonstrated on a week-to-week basis on the PGA Tour. And whether success comes quick, it will ultimately come. I know that about you, and those that you've been around also know that about you, that you are determined and capable. Thanks for sharing your story with us today on the podcast. And more important, or just as important as that, but maybe selfishly for me, more important than that, thank you for sharing your journey with me over the course of the last more than 10 years. I really appreciate it. And it's been a tremendous honor. It's, yeah, for me.
Yeah, we're gonna make me tear up before we go. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for the time, and thank you for the memories, and thank you for grinding through it with me. It's been a ride, and it will continue to be one.
Yeah, the best is yet to come.
There you go. You took my line. You took my line.
Time for a debrief. Corey, you and I have been sitting on this for a good number of weeks now, and it gives us an opportunity to go back and review it. Almost like we're doing an after action review after maybe a lesson, or we're watching game film of a student that's been a client that's been out on and competing. And then we have our own notes that serve as kind of learning points for us. But just as much, I think, as you and I have both been looking at this, and we discussed this in advance, we were looking at this as a means to identify the points that may be important for, let's say, if you were a parent listening or watching this, a player of any level, whether that be a youth player, a late adolescent in getting into college, or even a professional player. There are nuggets of wisdom in there. And then, of course, anyone wearing the hat that you and I would wear, the hat of instructor, and the deeper job of being a coach,
a coach to developing athletes and athletes that are pursuing high performance. I think there are other points of importance that we would kind of double tap on or highlight that then serve as our Cliff Notes version of what the Noah Goodwin Earn Your Edge podcast interview holds as kind of key wisdom or key nuggets. So one thing that I started with that I know you earmarked too, because you did a great job and shared with me your Cliff Notes version, and that's that practice piece. So I'm going to let you lead off with that that practice piece of a nugget and the uniqueness that Noah brought to his kind of learning arc.
Yeah. So there's always, when we re-listen to these episodes, there's these little moments of, wisdom that come from these great players. It's like, gosh, I really hope that so-and-so is listening to this. And so this is our chance to highlight those things. And you're right. The practice piece for Noah, he's got a pretty unique upbringing that he tells us about in the interview, where his dad is a motor learning expert, and not everyone has a sports scientist that they're growing up with. So that's why I want to make sure that everyone just takes notice of just the level of intention and structure that that Jeff, Noah's dad, put into his practice. And so we don't have to be a PhD, as long as I think we understand two main concepts: what is form work and what is skill work. I think that a lot of junior golfers, especially, confuse just time on the range for, hey, that automatically made me better. That's not always the case, right? We've got to have this good balance between when I'm working on my technique, I'm doing form work. So that means I'm in a very stable environment. There's a lot of repetition. There's this narrow focus on one piece of my technique, but that's not all I'm doing. There's also this balance of this skill work. I'm doing some amount of problem solving. I'm doing some amount of golf-like practice that's really going to prepare me for all the variability that I face on the golf course. And so that's the main takeaway that I'm hoping everyone pays attention to. And I'm sure that's the takeaway that you would also highlight. Is there a challenge? Is there an actionable that comes to mind that we would want to leave the listeners with regards to this practice piece?
Yeah, I think so. And I guess going back in time to that first session that Noah speaks to inside of our lesson, and I didn't know what Noah's dad did in advance of that first setting. And you know how cut from the same cloth you and I are, as was Noah's dad's professional domain. And when he told me he was a motor learning professor, I buttoned up and dotted my I's and crossed my T's, and was proud to demonstrate the foundational knowledge that I brought as a coach to that lesson. Had some great conversations, not only in day one, but conversations that have unfolded over time. But those actionables always kind of hit home for me when I'm talking to players of all levels. And that is, what does practice serve? What does your training serve? Does it serve to the end of getting better? Or does it just serve to the end of getting by? So are you getting better or are you getting by? And most of the time, if you're only, let's say, managing and measuring your practice based on a time commitment, then you're likely moderately or at a low level getting better. But moreover, it's probably falling into the bucket of you getting by. Yes, you're investing time, but is that time the most well-spent time? And so I think that the actionable would be that a person needs to, before they get to practice, establish what's the objective of this investment in time. And that objective needs to be anchored to some level of understanding of where their skill level is currently at. Then after you've established what the objective or objectives are, is you have to develop a plan. So a goal without a plan is really just a wish, is an expression that you and I have shared from time to time. And then the last piece, after working your plan, formulating your plan, working your plan, which is the time invested, then there's that reflective process that happens after like Noah was talking about, a 15-minute session. What did I get better at then? Or what did I learn through that block session or randomized session that then is going to make me better the next time I perform that task or that type of challenge, right? So objectives, plan, and reflect. And then a couple of resources that came to mind that I wrote down here that I would point people to. Some great books that are like Josh Waitson's The Art of Learning. Yes, it's relatively autobiographical, but it does hit on some pretty key learning concepts that are super important. So that's one resource that I would point people to if they're looking to read on this subject. And another one in terms of like how habit building and how we get better at doing things would be James Clear's Atomic Habits, a book that you and I are both fans of. And lastly, as I'm getting long-winded here, if you're out at a tour event and you're looking for a person other than Noah Goodwin who embodies this, and now they all do this really, really well, LPGA and PGA Tour players. A person that embodies this to a T would be Matt Fitzpatrick, of which you and I have had him on the podcast before, and let's say unpacked the methodical nature with which he plans what he's doing and tracks what he's doing, such that he knows that at the end of the day, when having to ask that question of himself, did I get better today? He has an explicit answer for it.
Yeah, no doubt. And I think that I'm going to segue into our next theme here, that Noah spent some time talking about getting to SMU and the challenges that he had with time management, because we're talking about practice and how do we make the most out of that time. Well, that segues beautifully into what do I do when I've got family and friends and school and other stuff competing with my pursuit of mastery and excellence in sport. And I think that a message that I would like to one, get your take on, but also share with the listeners, is that they might just end up with imbalance.
Yeah.
It might not be something that they're going to achieve that balance of, I'm doing a little bit of everything. I think that high performers are not afraid to make sacrifices and to immerse themselves. And I think that's part of what the lesson that Noah learned while he was in college was, that there's going to be trade-offs here, because I can't be good at everything. If I'm going to be world class, there's just going to be, I have to, what I would say, prioritize pretty ruthlessly. And I think that that's what a lot of high performers have made the choice, that, you know what I'm pursuing is not all that normal. And so I can't make normal choices. I've got to make pretty extraordinary choices if I'm going to achieve these extraordinary goals that I have for myself. So that's one of those things that, as Noah was talking, I was really hoping that listeners would pay attention to. What's your take on, I guess, being okay with that imbalance?
Yeah. You and I have this conversation very regularly with the clients that we're blessed to work with. And it's a conversation pertaining to the scarcity of time, that resource of time, and the entirety of the pie, the 168 hours in the week, and what we refer to as the rule of 168. And then when you ask a person to do inventory on how they distribute that time, there's the expenses that are absolutely necessary. You need sleep. We need to rest. We need to spend time if we're in school academically, or if we're a recreational player, there's family time, and there's the job that we do. And so typically what we're dealing with is the limited resource of time that needs to be accurately and appropriately allocated towards getting better, right? The strengths that we want to continue to grow strong or hold at that level, and the weaknesses that we want to lift up. So I think as an action point is, like, let's realistically look at this and take an inventory on how much available time that we have, and then just track it for a week, as to, you feel like you might have 5 hours to apply to your golf practice, or 15 hours to apply to your golf practice. And how do you actually allocate that precious resource of time? And where are those dead moments where we could recapture or maybe reuse that time? We always talk about turning that 1 hour into work that, while it takes 1 hour in time frame, in all actuality, we're leveraging it based on that former conversation point on the principles of practice, the art of practice, to work like it's 3 hours. So I think those are the super important points to hit on there. One other thing that wasn't on your list that was on mine is the essence and the importance that competition at all levels becomes vital, that iron sharpens iron. And two quotes that I was thinking of as I was re-listening to Noah expressing how competition brought out the best in him, and competition was those moments where he knew that was going to prepare him for becoming a better player. It's like practice, yeah, it's studying for the test, but really taking the test is really where we want to shine. And those quotes are, growth comes at the expense of comfort or safety. And so lean into those moments. And the second being, if it doesn't challenge you, it won't change you. What are your thoughts as it relates to Noah's pinpointing competition as critical to his development, and maybe anchoring to those two quotes that I find important to kind of stress when I'm in coaching?
Yeah, I think that it's a theme that comes up in almost every single one of our episodes, is where when we're talking about these early stages of development, these great players always talk to, yeah, I was playing with this kid. He hit it a little bit, he was bigger than me. I was playing with these older kids. They hit it farther than me. I think that, and what we've talked about is just normalizing excellence, is being around this so often that it becomes like, this is the standard that I'm going to hold myself to. Oliver, my 10-year-old son, played in a golf tournament a couple days ago. He gets paired with a kid who birdies the first 5 holes and is 6 under through 7. And my son's looking around like, he's 2 over. He's playing pretty good. And
It's
he's
not like
looking
me.
over. And I'm like, gosh, what a good experience for him to see, like, this is what this looks like.
Yeah.
And that, as long as the response is one of, man, I want to do that. That gets me fired up. I want to make some sacrifices, or I want to structure my practice in a little different way. As long as it's not so far out there, which this was a pretty far out there experience, but as long as it's not going to discourage a player, finding those opportunities to be competitive, I think, and having that peer group that's like that and that pushes you, I just think it's massively important. I think, and I know it's massively important because of the 90 conversations we've had, how many players have brought that up? That's just one of those commonalities, one of those common threads that everyone pulls on, that tells me this must be a non-negotiable. This must be something that has to be part of the development of these great players. So yeah.
In fact, as I think about the players that I am around on a very weekly basis as I'm traveling the PGA Tour, and I think about whether I've had explicit conversations with them or I've just inquired around the circles to say, hey, how does that person do X or Y, or how do they get good? The one person that comes to mind who does not, on a regular basis, in fact, may not do it very much at all, expose himself inside of like competitive money games or challenge himself other than when the gun goes off Thursday and continues to Sunday. The unique person in many ways, in all special ways, so not in a derogatory way, is Bryson DeChambeau. I mean, his regular practice is lots of block. It's isolated work.
Yeah.
It's very rarely, I'm going to practice X number of hours and then go play a money game against the guys, whether it's at Dallas National or Merido here in town. So he sits more isolated at one end of the spectrum. But yes, there was a counterfactual, maybe, to your point. The 90 conversations that we have had, almost to a person, critical to their development is competition, whether that's competition with against themselves or a competition against maybe a game or device that they're playing, like a TrackMan, let's say, scoring combine, or a drill or task, or literally inside of a peer group at their golf club, or they will go seek it out, whether that be a practice event or a 4-ball that are playing with their buddies at a different club, or ultimately the largest of tests is the competitive environment, meaning a tournament. And all of this is to, like you say, normalize that experience, because the last thing that we want our athletes to feel is the weight of that pencil turn into 300 pounds. As soon as they have to get to the first tee, put the pencil in their pocket and say, okay, now you have to post a score and you only get 1 ball off the first tee and there's no do-overs here. We want to make the weight of that pencil the actual weight rather than the figurative 300-pound weight. And then the way to do that is clearly expose yourself to those challenge points inside of many of your golf experiences.
Yeah, I love it. And I just heard a PGA Tour player that had a couple weeks off that then played and said, I had to remember how to play competitive golf. You talk about the weight of that pencil. It's like these guys have been doing it their whole lives and have so many reps doing it. And they still have that adjustment of, oh man, this putt feels a little bit different, And so if I'm a junior golfer or a high school player, college player, that person is feeling that. So
yeah, indeed.
Yeah. Important piece. Let's wrap up. There's one last highlight that I want to bring everyone's attention to, and that's just the level of prep. Noah is an ideal, he represents ALTUS so well with the level of detail, intention, and sophistication in his prep. And so that's one of those pieces, as he spoke of. I just want everyone to pay really, really close attention, that if you've got these players that have this unbelievable talent, if they see that they have to put in this level of prep, who are the rest of us not to put in this extra, like leave no stone unturned, like do the extra pieces to make sure that I earn that confidence. You know, they're not leaving their performance up to chance. And I think that that's a really, really important piece, because you might see these preparation, these extra steps that certain people take as being mundane or tedious, or it's not really necessary. But here at the highest level, you talked about Matt Fitzpatrick. I mean, there's so many examples of high level players that they're just not leaving this stuff to chance. And so I wanted to make sure that we highlighted that one piece there. You have a take on that?
I don't have much of a take on it because it was so well put. So I'd echo those sentiments, but I do have an actionable or a deliverable maybe, and that's to point people that are, let's say, maybe unaware of what elite level preparation looks like, is to point them to one of our courses that we don't shout from the top of a hill. We don't promote other than to the clients that we're blessed to reach. And that course is primed to perform. Quite frankly, your brainchild and your baby that you put together, that we all contributed to in many great ways. But that's the resource that I would point them to. And so maybe in the show notes, we can link people to where they can find that course.
Yeah. I mean, the idea behind that is that really high performers, again, they're not just hoping that they're ready to go. They're building systems that guarantee they're ready to go. And so the rest of us need that same thing too. So that's hopefully some good takeaways. Hopefully, if you've listened to the entire, you're still with us, you listened to the episode with Noah. We really just want to make sure that, you know, these episodes are only as, and interviews are only as good as the ideas and the actions that they spark. So hopefully through coach's lens, Cameron and I kind of breaking down which points we think are most important. There's a few actionables that you'll take, and hopefully this week do one or two of those things, and hopefully they move us on our path to mastery a little further. If you think that there's something in here that is worthwhile with someone else, to share with someone else that's on the same journey, we encourage you to do that. Thank you for listening, and we'll talk to you next time.
Your edge.